You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. The purpose of incident response training is to prepare teams to act quickly, confidently, and effectively during real security events. In many organizations, documented playbooks exist but remain untested in practice, leading to hesitation or confusion when an incident occurs. Training builds what is often called muscle memory by allowing teams to rehearse steps until they become second nature. It validates playbooks, ensuring the theory matches reality, and it surfaces gaps, whether missing contacts, unclear ownership, or technical limitations. Just as fire drills prepare people to evacuate safely, incident response training ensures staff know their roles and procedures without needing to improvise under pressure. The aim is not only to improve technical reaction, but also to strengthen coordination, communication, and confidence across the entire organization. For learners, it's important to see incident response training not as a checklist exercise, but as building resilience so that when chaos strikes, the team responds with clarity and purpose. There are multiple types of incident response training, each offering different benefits. Tabletop exercises are the most common and involve walking through a scenario verbally. Teams gather around a table or virtually and discuss how they would respond step by step. These exercises are low cost, low risk, and excellent for practicing communication and decision-making. Role-based drills move beyond discussion, assigning participants active tasks to simulate what they would actually do. This may include checking logs, contacting stakeholders, or running containment commands in a safe test environment. Fully simulated live fire tests are the most advanced. These recreate real attack conditions in controlled environments, testing not only processes but also technical defenses under stress. Each type builds progressively, with tabletop establishing baseline readiness and live fire validating operational capability. For learners, think of it like athletic training. Tabletop is the strategy session, role-based drills are scrimmages, and live fire simulations are full competitive matches. Defining the scope of incident response tests is crucial to success. Scope determines how wide-reaching the exercise will be, which systems are in play, and what risks must be mitigated. Some exercises are intentionally limited and framed as blameless learning opportunities, focusing on discussion and collaboration rather than technical execution. Others are organization-wide activations, testing everything from detection to legal notifications and executive communications. Setting scope up front prevents surprises and ensures exercises meet objectives without unintended disruption. For example, a limited scope tabletop may only simulate a phishing attack, while a broader scope simulation may test enterprise-wide ransomware recovery. The key is aligning scope with goals and maturity. For learners, this can be compared to flight training. Early lessons are conducted in simulators, while later stages involve actual flights under controlled supervision. Both are valuable, but clarity of scope ensures safety, alignment, and effective learning outcomes. Roles are a fundamental part of incident response exercises, and training provides the perfect opportunity to practice them. The incident commander is responsible for overall coordination, ensuring tasks are assigned and communication flows clearly. A communications lead handles messaging to internal stakeholders, executives, and sometimes the public. Technical leads focus on detection, containment, and remediation activities within their domain, such as network, applications, or endpoints. Legal and HR representatives play equally important roles, ensuring compliance with laws, managing potential liability, and supporting employees who may be implicated. Practicing these roles in a safe environment ensures that during real incidents, individuals understand their responsibilities and can act decisively. For learners, think of this like rehearsing a theater production. Every actor must know their lines and cues before opening night. Incident response exercises ensure the actors of security, legal, and business leadership are ready to perform their roles seamlessly under pressure. Goals-based testing is a structured approach that ensures exercises provide measurable value. Instead of vague scenarios, organizations define specific objectives, such as validating a malware containment playbook, testing executive communications under time pressure, or verifying the ability to rotate credentials at scale. By tying exercises to goals, teams can evaluate not only whether they responded but also how well they met defined success criteria. For example, a test may measure how quickly analysts isolated infected endpoints, or whether legal teams followed notification requirements within regulatory timelines. Goals-based design ensures exercises are practical, actionable, and relevant to organizational risks. For learners, imagine sports training where every drill has a purpose: practicing free throws to improve accuracy, running sprints to build speed, or scrimmaging to test teamwork. Similarly, incident response exercises must be goal-oriented, sharpening specific skills and validating specific processes, rather than just going through motions. Metrics allow organizations to assess the effectiveness of incident response training. Common measures include time to detect, time to contain, and decision quality. Time to detect tracks how quickly the team recognizes the incident, whether through monitoring or user reporting. Time to contain measures how fast the incident is controlled to prevent spread. Decision quality evaluates whether the team chose appropriate actions, avoided unnecessary disruptions, and followed policy. These metrics provide a baseline for improvement, allowing organizations to track progress across multiple exercises. For example, if detection time drops from hours to minutes between exercises, the team has demonstrably improved. Metrics also highlight weaknesses, such as delays in communication or unclear ownership, so they can be addressed. For learners, metrics are like a scoreboard in athletics. They don't just show who participated, but how well they performed. In incident response training, metrics transform subjective impressions into measurable outcomes that drive real improvement. Safe testing boundaries are critical for ensuring that exercises do not inadvertently damage production systems. Even well-intentioned simulations can cause disruptions if not carefully scoped. To avoid this, organizations use techniques like canaries, read-only modes, and replicated environments. A canary is a test system or data set specifically created for exercises, allowing workflows to be run without risk. Read-only modes ensure that playbooks can gather evidence or simulate actions without making changes to real systems. Replicated environments, often in cloud sandboxes, mirror production closely while isolating risk. These safety measures let teams practice realistically without creating harm. For learners, think of this like fire drills in schools. The alarms are tested and procedures rehearsed, but no one actually lights a fire. Safe testing boundaries ensure realism and learning without unintended damage, protecting both organizational systems and trust in the exercise process. Documentation and evidence captured during exercises are as important as the exercises themselves. Every action, decision, and outcome should be logged so that after-action reviews can be conducted. This documentation becomes a learning artifact, allowing teams to analyze what went well, what broke down, and what improvements are needed. Evidence also demonstrates compliance to regulators and auditors, proving that the organization regularly tests and improves its incident response program. For example, logs of containment actions or communication drafts used in an exercise can be stored as artifacts for future reference. For learners, think of this like a game replay in sports. Reviewing the tape shows not only the final score, but also the plays, strategies, and mistakes that shape the game. Capturing evidence ensures training exercises are not forgotten once complete, but instead become building blocks for future readiness. Incident response exercises should also test escalation and external notification practices. Security incidents often have regulatory, legal, or contractual obligations requiring timely notification of regulators, partners, or customers. Exercises provide the chance to validate these processes under controlled conditions. For example, a simulation might include testing whether the legal team knows how to notify regulators within required timelines, or whether communication leads have prepared customer notifications. Escalation paths should also be validated, ensuring incidents are reported quickly to the right executives and decision makers. For learners, think of this as testing fire alarm systems. It is not enough for alarms to ring. Authorities must also be alerted, and evacuation procedures must follow. Similarly, incident response requires not just technical containment, but timely escalation and notification. Exercises provide the opportunity to test these critical processes safely before they are needed for real. Blameless post-mortems are an essential part of learning from incident response exercises. After an exercise concludes, the focus should not be on who made mistakes, but on what systemic improvements can be made. Blame creates fear and reduces honesty, while blameless reviews encourage transparency and learning. Teams should analyze the root causes of delays, missteps, or failures, identifying where processes, tools, or training fell short. Action items should be documented with owners and deadlines to ensure improvements are implemented. Over time, this approach builds a culture of continuous learning and resilience. For learners, think of this like aviation crash investigations. The goal is never to shame pilots, but to improve procedures and systems so accidents are less likely in the future. Blameless postmortems ensure every exercise strengthens the organization, not just technically, but culturally. Cadence recommendations help organizations structure a sustainable training program. Tabletop exercises can be conducted monthly, providing frequent opportunities for teams to practice communication and decision-making. Technical drills, which involve executing workflows in test environments, may be held quarterly to validate specific playbooks and technical skills. Fully simulated live fire exercises, which are more resource-intensive, can be run annually to test end-to-end readiness under realistic pressure. This cadence ensures training is ongoing, not a one-time event. For learners, cadence is like athletic conditioning. Regular practice sessions build skill and confidence, while occasional high-intensity competitions validate readiness under stress. Incident response training should follow the same rhythm, balancing frequency with intensity to build resilience sustainably. A practical exercise to start with is a 2-hour tabletop focused on credential compromise. This scenario is realistic and high impact, making it an excellent foundation. The exercise begins with a simulated alert that user credentials may have been stolen. Teams then walk through how they would detect, contain, rotate credentials, and notify affected users. Throughout, actions and decisions are documented for after-action review. This simple exercise tests detection, containment, and communication in one scenario, while highlighting gaps in playbooks or procedures. For learners, think of it as practicing for a fire drill, where smoke is detected in a specific room. Everyone rehearses their steps in a realistic but safe context. By starting with credential compromise, organizations gain a meaningful, practical introduction to incident response training, building momentum for broader and more complex exercises. Designing realistic scenarios is the backbone of effective incident response training. A good scenario is not abstract. It mimics the sequence of events that would happen in a real attack, requiring teams to exercise detection, containment, communications, and recovery in order. For example, a ransomware scenario might begin with abnormal network activity, escalate to encryption of files, trigger an executive briefing, and finally, test restoration from backups. By sequencing the steps in this way, the exercise forces teams to practice the entire response lifecycle rather than isolated elements. Realistic scenarios also prevent complacency. If exercises are too easy or disconnected from reality, participants may treat them as box ticking rather than genuine practice. For learners, this is like a fire drill, where smoke machines, alarms, and evacuation routes are all part of the test. It feels real, so the responses are real. Effective exercises bring realism into play, challenging both technical and non-technical teams to act as they would under real-world stress. Including third parties and incident response exercises is often overlooked, but in modern environments, it is essential. Many organizations depend on cloud providers, managed security service providers, and external vendors for critical operations. If these partners are not included in exercises, a key part of the incident chain is left untested. Exercises should therefore simulate how and when to engage vendors, whether requesting forensic support from a cloud provider or escalating a case to a managed society. This builds clarity around roles, response times, and escalation paths. Without practice, confusion may arise during real incidents about who is responsible for what. For learners, this is like rehearsing an emergency drill in a building where fire crews are never called. The internal team may respond well, but without practicing the external coordination, the test remains incomplete. Third-party participation strengthens readiness by ensuring that every link in the extended ecosystem is prepared. Legal and regulatory requirements must also be embedded into exercises, ensuring compliance obligations are practiced under realistic conditions. Many jurisdictions require organizations to notify regulators or affected customers within specific timeframes after a breach. Failing to meet these timelines can result in fines or reputational damage. Exercises should therefore include scripts that test whether legal teams know the rules, whether approval processes are streamlined, and whether notification templates exist. Practicing these steps highlights bottlenecks such as lengthy review cycles that could delay real-world compliance. For learners, think of this as practicing not just how to put out a fire, but also how to file the insurance claim afterward. Both are necessary for full recovery. By integrating legal and regulatory scripts into exercises, organizations validate not only their technical readiness, but also their ability to satisfy external obligations under pressure. Measuring team stress and cognitive load during exercises provides insights that go beyond technical performance. Even if playbooks are correct, teams may struggle to execute them when overwhelmed by alerts, pressure, or unclear communication. Exercises should therefore observe how teams perform under time constraints, how well they distribute workload, and whether playbooks remain usable in stressful conditions. If stress is too high or playbooks are too complex, teams may freeze or make mistakes. Measuring stress ensures organizations design responses that remain operable under real-world chaos. For learners, this is like testing a pilot not just in calm skies but in turbulence, storms, and emergencies. A procedure that works in theory may fail when adrenaline and fatigue set in. Stress testing human factors ensures that incident response plans are not only technically sound, but also realistically executable. Modern exercises must also integrate automated tooling behaviors so that teams understand how automation interacts with human roles. Increasingly, detection, enrichment, and containment are handled partially by SOAR playbooks or EDR tools. If exercises ignore these automations, teams may be surprised during real incidents by the speed and scope of automated actions. Training should therefore simulate automation-driven outcomes, such as automated account lockouts or network isolations, and practice how humans interpret, validate, and escalate them. This ensures humans and machines operate in harmony rather than tripping over each other. For learners, imagine a sports team that never practices with its actual equipment. On game day, they may fumble because they didn't account for how tools work in real time. Integrating automation into exercises ensures workflows reflect reality, blending human judgment with machine-driven speed and consistency. Evidence of success in incident response training is more than just completing the exercise. It includes validated playbooks, updated runbooks, and clear action items with assigned owners. A validated playbook is one that has been tested end-to-end and proven reliable under simulated stress. Updated runbooks incorporate lessons learned, refining steps for clarity and efficiency. Action items with owners ensure that gaps discovered during the exercise are not ignored but tracked to completion. This evidence demonstrates that training is not performative, but genuinely improves readiness. For learners, think of this like a rehearsal where adjustments are made afterward. Scripts refined, cues clarified, and stage directions corrected, so the final performance is stronger. Success is not measured in flawless execution during the exercise, but in whether the organization leaves better prepared than it began. Tabletop exercises should always include feedback loops that translate findings into concrete improvements. After-action reviews should identify what worked well, what failed, and what needs tuning. These findings must then flow into policy updates, detection rule adjustments, and training refreshes. Without this loop, exercises risk becoming stagnant, repeating the same issues without resolution. Feedback loops turn exercises into living systems of improvement, raising maturity over time. For learners, this is like athletic coaching. Each practice session is reviewed, weaknesses identified, and drills adjusted. The goal is not perfection in one session, but steady improvement. Incident response training must work the same way. Each exercise feeds lessons back into the system, making the next response faster, sharper, and more resilient. Communications rehearsals are a critical but sometimes neglected part of exercises. Security incidents are not only technical, they are organizational crises requiring clear messaging to executives, employees, customers, and sometimes the public or media. Exercises should test how well communication leads deliver updates under time pressure, whether messaging templates are ready, and whether executives are briefed appropriately. Public-facing rehearsals may simulate press releases or media statements, ensuring alignment with legal and PR guidance. For learners, this is like rehearsing not just how firefighters extinguish flames, but also how officials communicate evacuation updates to the public. Communication determines how stakeholders perceive the incident, and poor messaging can cause as much damage as the breach itself. Practicing communication alongside technical response ensures the organization remains coherent and credible in crises. Graduating from tabletop to live fire simulations requires clear criteria. Teams should not attempt complex live fire scenarios until tabletop and technical drills demonstrate reliable performance. Criteria may include consistent containment within acceptable timelines, clear role execution, and successful communication flows. Once confidence is built, live fire tests expose systems to controlled adversary behavior, perhaps simulated phishing campaigns, malware infections, or denial of service attacks. These validate both human and technical resilience. For learners, this is like a martial arts student moving from practice drills to sparring only when fundamentals are solid. Prematurely attempting live fire exercises risks overwhelming teams or creating harm. Criteria-driven progression ensures organizations scale realism responsibly, building confidence step by step while minimizing unnecessary risk. Documentation and tracking of remediation tasks ensure that exercises drive real improvements. Every gap identified, whether a missing contact list, outdated playbook step, or unclear escalation, should be logged with an owner and timeline for resolution. These tasks should be tracked until closure, with progress reviewed in subsequent exercises. Without tracking, lessons learned risk being forgotten, and the same failures may reoccur. For learners, this is like identifying broken equipment during sports practice but never fixing it. The same issue will surface in the next game, undermining progress. By tracking remediation tasks, organizations turn lessons into action, ensuring each exercise strengthens resilience rather than recycling problems. Cross-team participation is another essential ingredient of effective exercises. Real incidents rarely stay within one silo. They cross security, IT, legal, HR, and executive teams. Exercises should mirror this by including representatives from all relevant areas. This builds shared understanding, reduces friction during handoffs, and fosters trust. When people practice together, they learn each other's language, priorities, and challenges, making real-world coordination smoother. For learners, think of this like practicing as a full orchestra instead of isolated sections. The violinists and percussionists may play well alone, but harmony only emerges when everyone rehearses together. Cross-team exercises build this harmony for incident response, ensuring that during real crises, coordination feels natural rather than forced. Ultimately, the value of incident response training lies in regular, realistic practice. When organizations conduct exercises consistently, they shorten response times, reduce mistakes, and increase resilience. Training transforms theory into action. ensuring that when incidents strike, teams respond with confidence, clarity, and cohesion. Without regular training, playbooks gather dust and teams falter under pressure. With it, incident response becomes a rehearsed performance coordinated, swift, and effective. For learners, the lesson is simple. Practice does not make perfect, but it makes prepared. Regular, realistic training builds the readiness that technology alone cannot provide, making organizations stronger, safer, and more capable of weathering the inevitable storms of cybersecurity incidents. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.